Welcome to Product Marketing Alliance and thanks for tuning in. While we're waiting to go live, for those of you that are new to PMA, let's take a whistle-stop tour of what it is that we actually do. Our community. We're home to more than 10,000 product marketers across the world, and every single day, tons of product marketing specific conversations go down. The community is an absolute wealth of knowledge and answers and a constant place of inspiration. We publish several industry reports a year, and in them we look at everything from the main responsibilities of product marketing to the average salaries across the world, to how those in the C-suite view and value our role. On our content platform, we and industry specialists are adding new articles every single day so that you can get your fix on everything from positioning all the way through to OKRs. We've got 2 podcasts on the go where we speak to product marketers from all over the world about everything from how they got into the industry to what a day in the life looks like for them. Product Marketing Fix, our very own product marketing streaming service, has new video footage added every week and includes everything from presentations to Q&As. And then there's Ask Me Anythings. Every other week, we put PMMs from organizations like Google, IBM, and SurveyMonkey under the spotlight to answer all your burning questions. Then there's our membership plans. You get access to an ever-growing bank of templates and frameworks, exclusive content from influential industry leaders, hundreds of hours of product marketing presentations, our mentorship program, and much more. Product marketing certification covers 11 essential modules on the A to Z of product marketing. You'll be given exams throughout, hours of bonus footage, live weekly workshops, and official certification at the end. Keep your eyes peeled too, there are plenty more masterclass courses coming. Our product marketing jobs board is the only recruitment resource dedicated solely to PMMs. And companies like HubSpot, LinkedIn, and Typeform trust us to find their talent. Our partners over at Product Marketing World tour the globe with their summits year-round. And outside of that, we have Meetup ambassadors who organize local gatherings at least once a quarter. If you want to start building your personal profile and putting your words in front of industry enthusiasts, our blog gets hundreds and thousands of hits every month, making it the perfect place to showcase your work. Not only that, we have our product marketing awards, our ambassador program, our newsletters, and our tools directory. We really are, dare I say it, a one-stop shop. That's all for now, so let's get stuck in with today's LinkedIn Live.
Okay. Hello and welcome to this fireside chat. I'm joined by Director of Product Marketing at Airslate, Aaron Brennan. Aaron has over a decade of experience being a product marketing manager at companies such as Google and LastPass, and he was recognized as one of the top 50 product marketing influencers in 2019 and is also an avid hiker. So Aaron, great to have you here today.
Thanks.
So today we're going to be discussing leading, building and growing great product marketers. So Aaron, if we can start with a sort of step back. So why is it worth developing someone into a great product marketer?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the reason that it's worth developing somebody into a great product marketer is for a few reasons, right? One, it puts less stress on you as a manager to manage and optimize all those projects that goes on a day-to-day. As everyone knows in product marketing, you get pulled in a lot of different directions. And a lot of those different directions come at the very last minute. Hey, we need something up and running. Hey, we have this campaign going. Can you approve it? And so if you don't have your product marketers up and running and ready to go, they can't take on any of those tasks, so you end up taking on a lot of those tasks. The second reason is most product, as a manager, your job is to grow people and to make them happy. Most product marketers and most people want to grow their careers. They want to gain experience. They want to learn new things. And if you don't offer them those opportunities to grow and expand, they'll leave. So you'll be constantly worried about a retention problem by people coming in, getting tired of doing the same job and then leaving because they feel there's no growth or way for or path up for them. So, your job as a manager is to make sure that they can grow and experience new things and become stronger and better product marketing managers in their careers. And then lastly is, the better they get at their jobs, the better results you're going to see in the long run. If they are, working diligently and taking on new tasks, learning new tasks, they might even be bringing new things to the table that you've never thought of before that you can implement and roll out in areas that you never thought of to, expand your reach to users, to expand their experience, to make sure that they're incredibly happy, using your product.
Sure. So obviously picking the right person to offer that and be able to grow into that role is vital.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily think many people grow up thinking, I want to be a product marketing manager or I want to be a product marketer. So what is the kind of skill set that you're looking for? What kind of core competencies does someone have to be able to grow into that role?
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I had no idea that I was going to grow up to be a product marketing manager. Actually, I didn't even go to college for something that would be even aligned to what product marketing does. I went to college for sports management with a little bit of a focus on marketing, and then just kind of fell into product marketing and really loved it and enjoyed it. It's also a fairly new role; like it hasn't been around for that long, so I can echo that. Like nobody grows up being like, I want to be a product marketer. Like when you see the kids, like the video of the kids saying like, what do you want to be when they grow up? You're not saying like doctor, police officer, firefighter, product marketer, right? Kids don't say that. So, I was lucky enough to come in and figure out what product marketing was and really love it. But, when I look for a product marketer, one thing really sticks out to me as most crucial and important. And the people that I need most is actually problem solvers. Um, I've worked and talked with a lot of other managers, and they'll get very ingrained in looking for good writers or good project managers or good content builders. But the product marketers that I typically help grow and I've seen the biggest success in aren't people that have specific tasks in specific area like writing. It's people that are problem solvers. Like, do you know how to solve a problem? Can you look at a problem, diagnose it, and then go solve it without anybody ever else having to talk to you? And that I think is crucial to product marketing, because ultimately what we're doing is product marketing. You can say great writing is a piece to it. If they can be a good writer, that's good. They can be a good project manager, that's good. If they can work cross-functionally, that's fantastic. But ultimately their main job is working to solve problems on, moving the business needle forward, making sure that the customer experience is fantastic, right? The other pieces, you typically have frameworks within the organization that do that. You have content writers that do the content, right? So nice to have somebody who can write content, but usually I have content writers, so they do that. I have marketers who, build the campaigns and do a lot of that stuff. So I don't need a product marketer who can build the campaigns. So I have support teams that can help with support and fix problems as they're coming in on the back end. So when I look for product marketers, it's, hey, can you solve a big gaping problem? Can you make it scalable? Can you build it up? And that's the piece that is most important to me. So really a strategic function.
Right. Okay. So would you say sort of when they're in the role, like is a intense knowledge of the product important? How?
Extreme, Extremely important. I had a product manager who's a really good friend of mine. And he always used to yell at me if he felt like I was leaning more towards marketing. And he would yell at me, and and say I'm a capital P, I'm not a capital M, meaning
Right.
I'm a capital product marketing manager, which means it's my job to understand the product, understand how it works, understand how it solves problems, and ultimately you need to demo as well as anybody else. Like you need to know the product as well as a product manager. You need to be able to hop on phones when product managers aren't there. So yeah, I mean, you need to know the product better than anybody else.
Hmm.
And that's incredibly important for that role.
So you've already sort of alluded to the fact that a PMM works across teams, that they have to be cross-functional. So how important is it to align your sort of product marketing team, and what kind of departments do you say like are the most important to get that alignment with?
Yeah, so it depends on. So that's a good question. So aligning a team gets a little difficult because every company and organization is built a little bit differently, right? So if it's a large organization, typically the product is so big that you have product marketers that are focused on one piece of the product,
Mm.
right? So like if you were, let's say Google, right, has product marketers that are focused on, 6 or 7 product marketers focused on one product, right? But they're focused on one piece of that
Mm.
within the product. So they're focused on notifications, right? And then you have somebody else focused on like pictures or something else. So they're focused on that one area, working cross-functionally to gain metrics in those areas to move forward. When you're in a smaller company, product marketers tend to focus on a whole product but cross-functionally. So a great example is that when I was at LogMeIn and LastPass, I had 4 different products that rolled up into me. One of them, which was LastPass, I had a product marketer for each one of those products. So it was really, they were product focused, but we weren't big enough to get, granular and saying like, hey, I want somebody focused on registration and then somebody else focused on, core functionality, right? Although if we did get that big, that's probably how I would roll it out. So it depends on how the size of the company, how you actually align your product marketers to. You can assign them to a certain feature within a product to make sure that feature is, moving forward and gaining traction and people are understanding how it works. Or you can do it for an overarching product where they're saying, hey, you're to that product. Now, as far as who they're aligned to internally within the company, I always give a priority. Your first person that you work most closely with is product management. Again, we're rolling back into that. You're a capital P, not a capital M function. So it's your job to work with product managers. It's your job to help guide the roadmap. It's your job to understand how the product works, and talk to the other teams around that. After that, it's usually marketing, because a lot of what product marketing does needs marketing's help. So for example, when I was at LastPass, we had a product marketing manager that was, towards the end, we had a product marketer who was focused on registrations, which meant they worked very closely with, campaign building. They worked very closely with emails. They worked very closely with onboarding. And they worked very closely with product management in that onboarding structure and how they got onboarded. So, they were much more heavily focused on, sort of the marketing side of things. We did end up hiring somebody else who was what we called part of the core team, which meant that once somebody's onboarded, they had to continue to engage with the product, right? Because we didn't want them falling off and being, a churned customer. So, that person worked much more closely with product management, worked much more closely with UX and UI, but still had to work with marketing to, send out emails, send out campaigns to people that had, fallen off or had stopped using the product to say, hey, we have this new function and feature. Why don't you come back and try it out?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the roles that most importantly they engage with. Other than that, support is a big one because we need to be able to talk to support of what are the biggest features, what are the main features that people need to engage with. You know, trying to think of who else sales, obviously we focus a lot with sales, understanding the product, building sales enablement. How does the product ultimately work? You know, getting on sales calls, helping them talk through some of the higher level, bigger sales is what we try to do on a day-to-day basis, is making sure that they can sell, you know, talk to how the product works. So those are really the main areas of focus for a team. So the cross-functional needs to, cross-functional nature of the position needs to work with all those teams probably the most, with being able to be ready to work with operations, with engineering, with anybody else, you know, as sort of projects come up. Because as I was saying, like it's really solving problems, and a problem can arise, or you see a problem that could bring in anybody from any number of different parts of the organization that could help solve it.
Sure. And obviously, like you've mentioned, the function of a PMM can change depending on the size and the company size of the team. So when you want to grow your PMM team, what are the indicators that you need to? Is it about speed, growing it as quickly as possible? Capacity, when you can grow it, you may as well. What sort of things are you looking at as to the indicators to grow a team?
So the indicators I typically look at to grow a team are around speed to get things done. You know, always if I start to see churn happening, right, you know, that's always a big indicator. So I see people coming in, I see people registering, but then I see them falling out the other side. That means that we're not getting projects done. That means we're not communicating with them at the right cadence to, you know, make sure that what they're coming in and being happy with is being taken care of, which means that my product marketers are spread too thin, right? So it's when I start to see like metrics like that start to move in the wrong direction that I'm saying, okay, well, what's going on? Is my product marketer who's doing this stretched too thin, or are they not doing their job? And, you know, I typically run weekly meetings with my product marketers, so I know what's coming down the pipeline. I know what they're working on, and I can say, yeah, those things are getting done. There are things here that are moving forward that are really important. So we need to grow this team. We need to bring it out. You know, projects not getting done, you know, on a timely manner is always a big one too. You know, like, so for us, you know, even currently right now in my current organization, like, projects don't get done at the speed that we ultimately need them to get done. And sometimes they don't get done at all because other teams are larger than us, and they're moving much more quickly because they have the resources. So scaling out that team. So we'll be doing that soon too.
Sure. And you've mentioned about sort of the measurements of how someone's doing at their job. So what kind of KPIs are you looking at?
Yeah, so so this depends on somebody's role, right? So if they're on the front end and they're in charge of registrations, they're really registration, second week retention, onboarding, and using specific features and functions first. What I did in the beginning of my management career that has changed drastically to where I am now, is when my team would come in, I would actually, you know, give them their metrics of what they need to hit. And I noticed that people were not engaging as well as I hoped. They were not as excited about it. So I ended up changing that. And now the way that I manage my team around metrics is I give the high overarching metrics and say, like, I sit them all down. I say, all right, guys, these are the metrics we need to move. We need to increase registrations by this much. We need to, you know, increase core capability by this much. We need to increase referrals by this much. We need to increase power usage by 20%, right? Or whatever those metrics are. And I say, all right, guys, I need you to go away. I need you to figure out what metrics you need to move to hit those metrics. Right. And typically they'll come back to me and they'll say, hey, all right, so I want to increase second week retention. I want to increase registrations coming through the funnel. I want to increase the quality of the stuff coming through the funnel. Hey, I want to send out, you know, I want to increase the the feature that somebody uses every third month to be this feature, because we know that this feature has a direct correlation to becoming a more power user, right? So so they come back to me and they give me the metrics that they think are going to move this stuff. Ultimately, my job is to make sure that my product marketers are the ones spending 40 hours a week in that specific area that I have them in. So they are actually the experts at it, not me.
Yeah.
Right. It's not my job to be an expert there. It's my job to make sure that they're the expert there and I'm giving them the resources. So me giving them the metrics when I first started was just saying like, oh, well, you guys don't know what you're doing, but really they did know what they were doing. I didn't know what they were doing and I didn't know the metrics because I wasn't spending 40 or 50 hours a week in there. So my goal has been to empower my product marketers to basically create their own metrics, right? And then we sit down and we align to do those metrics go with like the overarching, and then I say, okay, well, how do you plan to accomplish these metrics, right? So it's really empowering them to be their own managers, right? And I try the people that I try to hire are people who are problem solvers, who want to be able to say like, hey, I did the research, this is the problem, and I'm gonna go solve it, right? I had a manager at Google who used to tell me this, and I sort of have the same mentality, with the people that I manage. Is he said, I will consider myself a great manager and I will consider myself successful when the day that somebody reports to me finally jumps me and I report to them. And, that's a sign of a really great manager. And I'm hoping it happens to me one day where, somebody that I'm managing will jump me and become a great manager themselves. And the only way I can do that is if I can give my team the freedom to, kind of experiment, learn, and build out the metrics that they want to build.
So on that note about obviously giving freedom is one way, but what other sort of behind the scenes work are you doing as a manager to set that person or that team up for success? So giving people freedom is a great way, but are you using any sort of project management tools to keep things ticking, or what's the infrastructure behind the success of a team?
Yeah, it depends on sort of how big the team is and also who needs more help and who doesn't. I have basically trackers with most of my team. I have some team members that just need a Google spreadsheet with some, you know, some metrics in there that they want to hit and how they're executing on those metrics to hit it down. And that's as high level as it gets. And those typically tend to be my more senior product marketing managers who want that sort of like, hey, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just letting you know so you can manage up, in that expectation. All the way down to like something like Trello, right? Which has been incredibly helpful for more junior product marketing managers who I need to know every step of what's going on because I need to, help guide them. It's not that I'm looking over the shoulder. I hate micromanagement. I won't do it. But sometimes they'll say like, hey, I'm going to move this to this step. Is this okay? And I tend to try to give them the benefit of the doubt and say like, well, do you think it's okay? Right? Are you okay with this? Cause I've seen this happen, and this happen, as long as you think it's okay, like move it forward. The great thing of this is, like I really embrace failures and mistakes, which, most of my team really gets them excited. And I remember, one product marketer who worked for me who created a mistake and she was terrified and we threw a pizza party for her and was like, hey, you made a mistake. This is awesome. Like what happened? Like what metrics changed? Like, how did this go so wrong? Like, and we were all super excited about it that we just wanted to learn from it. And she became she started to work at a much faster rate. She started working at a much more confident rate because she realized, oh wait, it's okay to make mistakes. We are not doing surgery. No one's going to die, with what we're doing. So yeah, this is great. And, once that freedom came to her, her metrics just started going through the roof. The quality of the stuff that she was producing started going out. The speed at what she was doing started going through the roof. So for us, tracking that sort of stuff through Trello was great. But I think the bigger factor for me was saying, hey, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to mess something up, let's just learn from it.
Sure. And as a manager, are there any other sort of traits and techniques that you've seen work really well? Obviously, it's always going to depend on who you're managing.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any sort of things you've carried through your career, or things you've seen that you think I'm definitely never going to be like that?
Yeah, so the biggest one for me is sort of the micromanagement piece. That's been the hardest for most people. Most people either want to be micromanaged or they want to be told what to do. One that doesn't work for me, and that typically doesn't work for the team, and it typically doesn't work for anybody else. When you're working cross organizationally and cross functionally as a product marketing manager, people want you to be able to make the call. So, to my product marketers, one of the things that works really well, and I encourage every one of them to do, and I do with the senior leadership team, is we have what's called biweekly syncs, where literally everybody from cross every department sits down and we go over every metric, whether the metric is aligned to them or not. They need to know what's going on. And sometimes they come up with ideas. So, we sit down and we go through every metric. I encourage my product marketers to do the same exact thing, where they sit down with every, cross-functional team and they give the information of like, okay, here's where we are with this. We need to move this forward by this much. We're kind of missing here, or, hey, we're doing really great here. Or, hey, this is a big problem, but I'm not sure really what's going on. Does anybody have any ideas? But the piece here that becomes most important is, what gets frustrating is because you're so cross-functional and, work with so many different teams, that when a team member has a question, they're looking to you to answer it, and you need to have the confidence to answer it. One thing that works very badly and becomes very cumbersome is every time you get and I did have a product marketer that had this problem, is every time he was asked a question, he goes, I don't know, let me go check with my manager. And then he would run to me and check with me, and then he'd go back. And so instead of one meeting to solve a problem, they were having 4 meetings to solve a problem, right? They had their original meeting, they had a meeting with me, then they had another meeting, and then they had another meeting with me to tell me what happened. And it was like, this is definitely not the way to do this, right? So I need my product marketers to be able to be looked at with a meeting and have the capability to say, I don't know, let's do this and find out, right? And really sort of bring that problem solving piece into it, because they're being looked at to solve that problem.
Yeah. So problem solving and basically good communicators.
Yeah.
And understanders.
Yep.
And that.
And a little bit of a scientist.
Yep.
Right? Like there needs to be a little bit of a scientist. I had a product marketer that, she was incredibly brilliant, and she said, I'm going to run somebody down this path. And I was like, that seems like a really bad path. Like, why are you running them down that path? She goes, well, we're only going to run like 2% of people down this path, but I just want to see what happens. And I was like, sure, go for it. And it was fascinating what we learned, like what people were willing to put up with and not put up with. It became like this really sort of fascinating thing, but like we had never thought of doing that, right? Like, because nobody wants to run somebody down a bad path. Like, it's sort of funny. But then we really we found out and figured out, well, here's the areas we need to focus on most, because these are the most important areas. So these other areas, people, even if it's not great, they'll put up with it.
Yeah, sure. So they've got to be able to experiment and just go for it, really.
Right. And being that scientist that sort of asks the question of, well, what if, is incredibly important. So great communication, problem solving, and a little bit of a scientist to just say like, hey, what's going to happen here?
So obviously at the moment, communication is slightly harder because a lot of people working from home, or not everyone's team is in the same place. So whilst we've done well not to mention it so far, how has sort of coronavirus affected the leading of a team, or the building of a team?
That's a great question. So, I have talked to some other directors and people managers who have said it's been a problem for them. Actually, COVID hasn't really been a huge problem for me so far, mostly because of the way that I manage, right? Like I don't micromanage. I want my people to really own their pieces, right? So for me, it's been really easy because my meetings are just check-in meetings, really. And so it's a what's happening. So the meetings haven't changed. And because there's no micromanagement, like I don't ask what happens in every single meeting that they're in. But I have other, people managers who are like, well, I have a meeting after every one of my employees has a meeting, right? And I'm like, why do you do that? Why not just join the meeting at that point? Why even have that person in that role if you're just going to ask them what happened in the meeting and just check a box to make sure that whatever you're done, like you need to trust your employees to do what it's done. So for me, it's been relatively easy because I've given that freedom to my employees to actually build and grow and, manage. They give me updates, which is all I'm really looking for, is just the updates of what's happening, what's going on, so I can communicate on a more larger cross-functional arena of executives and stuff like that on what's going on. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's really been easy. Zoom, Google Hangouts, Slack, even GChat, the old Google Chat has been incredibly helpful for me to communicate with my team on a daily basis.
Sure. I guess in terms of building a team, perhaps the hardest aspect might be onboarding, remote onboarding. When you've got your people, they know what they're doing, you've got the trust in them. But when you're trying to bring someone in, that might be going forward kind of the only issue or the only pain point.
Yeah, so I've actually already started thinking about that as like what's going to happen when I need to bring somebody on. This goes back to sort of the main piece of like, what do I do, to work cross-functionally within the organization, in that weekly meeting of saying like, hey, like, let me, I need to have bi-weekly meetings. Then it becomes, so the plan is to have daily meetings and daily stand-ups with these people, give them the action items that they need to accomplish, ask them what they've learned the day before, and then just continue sort of that cadence of just sort of talking. This is where other people within the organization will step up and help me train those people too. So like, it's not only just falling on my shoulders, but hey, I need you to go talk to Mark, about what's going on here and how we're going to solve this problem, right? Like Mark is a great asset, talk to him and help get up to speed. So you're really leaning on your other teammates just as much as you'd be leaning on yourself, to help get that person up and running.
Definitely. So thank you so much, Aaron, for a really great chat. Would you have any sort of final summaries, final concluding thoughts about growing the team, building the team?
Yeah, I think the big thing that I'd like everyone to understand is, and I said it before, your job is to manage people, not to micromanage them, right? So your ultimate goal should really be to have somebody that you manage jump you and you report to them. Right. And I know that's a really weird thing because most people want their careers to go. But if you manage your team in that mindset, you will see freedom within your team to just grow immensely, which will see your career grow immensely as well. The job is to build great product marketers to make your life easy, which means that those product marketers need to grow and almost become better at, your job than you are. So freedom is key, and mistakes are okay. Just make sure that you're giving them the freedom and not micromanaging them down where they're not actually learning anything.
Sure. So thank you so much again. Really helpful. I'm sure people are going to get a lot from it. And hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
Sounds great.
Okay. Cheers, Aaron. Thank you.
Thanks.